Boom, ba 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 bow, bow, bow. Welcome to another lesson today. We are going to really focus on things that you might be having an issue with, which is coming up with an idea. Do you struggle at times to figure out what it is you're trying to write as a musician, as a comedian, as an author, as a screenwriter? Today, for those people who are trying to find ways to get ideas from their head out onto the paper and creating the story or story arc that is interesting to them, well, that's what today's video is. How to come up with ideas to get a story going. And as always, I'm Thomas J. Beleza. So please like, comment, and share this video along with subscribing for future content for those interested in being successful in your career, specifically the entertainment industry. So let's get right into it. As always, I like to try to make my videos 10 to 20 minutes, no longer. And we're going to focus on a couple things. And then I'm going to give you some examples and we're going to brainstorm together. So that should be exciting. All right. How to come up with an idea? Well, first of all, you might hear a couple things that you're like, I know how to do that, Thomas. But we're going to explore them deeper than just saying what it is. The first is brainstorming. There's a couple of rules to brainstorming. The first is allow anything to come onto the paper. It doesn't matter if it's a stupid idea or if it's a great idea. You don't know until you see it on the paper along with the other elements. The whole point to brainstorming is to get things out of your head to start working your brain. Believe it or not, brainstorming's main purpose is to get you thinking. If you sit there stagnant going, what should I write about? Instead of just starting to throw out ideas, anything from just starting writing, cat lives at home, my cousin Jacob, whatever it is, you just start throwing out ideas without really thinking about it. Let train of thought happen. Brainstorming will start fueling and opening your doors. The concept to anything aloud is that we're not trying to write a story yet. We're just trying to get ideas out to allow our brain to start functioning before we get into the deeper stuff. Now, once you start getting stuff on the paper and you start really letting your brain think, you can start focusing on elements. Some elements you could start with is conflict, character, location, emotion, maybe what intrigues you or what excites you. Now, when it comes to conflict, you might not have to think completely of what the full scope of the conflict is. You don't have to sit there and go, all right, the conflict is mother-daughter, right? And they're fighting and they've been fighting for all the, right? You could just start with a conflict and just say mother-daughter, or you could say mother-boyfriend, or you could say mother-husband, or you could say mother-wife, you could say friends, you can, all right? What kind of conflict? A friend's conflict, a sibling's conflict, whatever it is. You could say a boss employee conflict. You can say whatever it is, father-daughter, mother-daughter, father-son, mother-son, whatever it is. Just create a conflict idea and just brainstorm that. Boom, boom. Now, obviously, if you have more to that idea, because that's the whole point of brainstorming and just throwing out ideas, you will be able to just kind of like let it flow. If you're like two friends are having a conflict over a woman they love together, right? Boom, Spider-Man has existed, right? Because Peter Parker and Harry, they both pine over Mary Jane. Harry makes the first move. Peter's like, and they live together, right? So we just created conflict. We just broke down Spider-Man. But obviously, that's not the full scope of it. But we created an element to that movie. And Spider-Man, made $400 million or $900 million, whatever crazy it was. So that's the start of the conflict. There's two friends, and we expand a little bit on it. They're competing over the same girl, right? That's a pretty traditional story if you think about it, right? And then you say, you know what? One of them doesn't know about it. And they move in together into the city. So they go from their houses into the city together. Like now you're creating even more conflict, okay? And we haven't even gotten into like story beats. We haven't gotten into scenes. We haven't gotten into anything. We're just, what is the environment we're trying to put them in? Character is just like, for example, you could say, all right, for example, if you're writing fantasy, right, you go for the hero's journey. You go, all right, so a character who starts off in a bad way and fights their way either metaphorically, mentally, or physically to a position of power, okay, defeating the evil or thwarting the evil of the land, whatever it be. It could be an army, it could be a tyrant, it could be whatever the case may be. And now you have a character, just the concept of the character. But maybe You have a character you know in real life. Maybe your friend is the smartest person in the class when it comes to math, and they blow your mind. You're like, boom, beautiful mind, right? Someone was like, you would make a great story. They took that concept of that person, and then it blew up even more because that character had schizophrenia. So now we're creating, right? Now the conflict is, are these people real that he's seeing? Does he know he has schizophrenia, et cetera, et cetera? So we're creating character of they're a genius when it comes to math, but the conflict is they don't know if they're schizophrenic. And we haven't even come up with the scenes yet. We haven't come up with the story beats, et cetera, et cetera. We're just starting with mathematical genius has schizophrenia. There's the character, there's the conflict, right? And again, you can expand on these, you can throw them away, right? Then we go location. Where do we want to take place? Right? It could be anywhere. It could be in the future. It could be in the past. It could take place in the present and the past, which affects the future. And now you have Back to the Future. Again, we haven't even touched on beats, scenes, or anything. We're just saying, why don't we do a story that the story takes place in the past, but influences the future, but starts in the present. Now we have location, right? And then what can it be? Well, how do we get into the past? Well, how about there's like a genius, all right, who invents it, but the character that we're going to send back is not a genius. So we just created two characters, and that's Back to the Future. Again, there's no story beats. We're just saying there's a character who's a genius and a character who's not a genius. We know where the location is, and now the conflict is that the person who's not a genius is going back in time, who wants to go back to the future. Oh, there's the title of the movie, right? But the conflict is they're not smart enough to get there because something happens with the car. So now we're just from coming up with small elements, this is how we brainstorm. And then emotion, like when I write music, or if I write a poem, or if I am writing stories, I like to focus some of my characters based on emotional arcs. So someone that doesn't believe in themselves and then eventually believes in themselves. Now that as an idea may not be a fantastical story. It's just somebody who doesn't believe in themselves. And then now they believe in themselves and they're confident. All right, but how do we get there? That's how we create the beats. But as a starting point, the emotional is low self-esteem. They hate the way that makes them feel. And we want to get them to a point where they believe in themselves. So what kind of character can do that? Where can we create that kind of character, right? And that's also a hero's journey too, as well. But what intrigues you? This is a great place to start with brainstorming. Even if you're not going to just allow yourself to do train of thought, you can start with what intrigues you. What are you interested in? What things make you feel that you're like absorbed by? For me, I like divinity and magic and fantasy and knights and then warriors and people. But more importantly, I like people that have no ability to conquer what stands before them, but somehow not only do they inspire others to help their cause, but they inspire will within themselves to go above and beyond, right? So I like those kind of characters. That intrigues me. I also am intrigued by weak characters finding a power strength and then struggling between that concept. Do I take this newly formed power and destroy people and destroy my enemies and all this, or do I use it and I go, wait a minute, I have found an enlightenment to this. Am I here to destroy, or am I here to understand, right? So those are other things that might intrigue. The other thing that intrigues me is I'm a hopeless romantic. I love love, right? It's probably because I'm Sicilian, island of love, fish and wine. Mostly whining from like, hey, stop touching my grapes. Anyway, I don't know. But the thing that the hopeless romantic, so like I like movies like The Holiday, right? But the concept of people who love each other that aren't from the same same world, right? So the Romeo and Juliet concept, minus the fact that they're like 14 or 15, whatever. But forbidden love, or love that is dangerous, things like that. That like, why can't they be together? They should be together. What's keeping them? And then the things that are keeping them is environmental, right? So that kind of stuff intrigues me, and it helps me sit there and go, what kind of elements do I want to put in the story? The other thing that intrigues me is my stances on things, like my missions, morals, and ideologies. So if you've watched this channel, you know that we talk about branding, and a lot of times when you're trying to find your voice as a writer, as a comedian, as a musician, as a poet, as an author, as a screenwriter, what creates your voice, or a part of it, not the whole kit and caboodle, but a very strong part of it, is the subject matter in which you present on paper or verbally in comedy. So if you're a comic and you're brainstorming out ideas that are focused on really relationships, right? Or I'm about to give my age away. Dennis Miller is a political comic, okay? So his audience goes to him because they know they're going to get political humor. George Carlin is a comic that isn't necessarily known for laugh, 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 or dum, 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 big laugh. He was known for making you think and then turning it around on you and laughing at yourself for thinking the new way versus the old way you thought of. So he really liked pulling the curtain out and twisting the concept of what you see. So find out what intrigues you. Now, what excites you is a little different, okay? The intrigue is like, what are you interested in? But what excites you, right? So things that excite me is teams, groups, people working together. Those kind of stories excite me. But I also like I like that groups that don't get along, that need to get along to ultimately make something happen, to make things happen, right? So think about those things, okay? When you're brainstorming, think about conflict, character, location, emotion, and you don't have to think of it in long terms. You don't have to go, all right, the conflict is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. You could just be like, I want the conflict to be he gets stuck in time. He gets stuck back in time. Great. Who does? Somebody that doesn't understand science. Okay, great. Right? So as you're writing it out, you're just jotting down these ideas, okay? You might say to yourself, a very smart person invents a time machine. Or you might say, smart person, time machine, right? Okay? Then you want to start connecting ideas. And I'm going to actually show you on the examples in a moment how to do all that. But more importantly, a trick that I learned, and before I go into that, remember, I am Thomas J. Beleza. This is the BBR Productions YouTube channel. So please like, comment, and share this video, along with subscribing for future content for those who are interested in learning how to be successful in your career. And of course, that career is specifically entertainment. With that said, break down stories into elements. Now, I've heard this advice before in a different way, and I don't agree with it. So I'm going to explain what it is I heard, and then I'm going to explain what I believe it is. Some people tell you to look at a script and allow that script to dictate how you write your script. But reading a script and going, all right, what's the format? Where are they hitting their beats? That is not teaching you how to develop a story. Okay, it's just showing you format, and format is not process. When I'm talking about break down the story into elements, is look at a story, look at a poem, a song, a script, even a joke, and what are the elements? What are the conflicts, right? Understand the conflict, break down the conflict, figure out where it came from, where it was birthed from, where it was where it evolved to, and of course, where it was resolved. Okay. Okay. So another thing is characters. Look at the characters and break down the characters. Try to understand those characters and say to yourself, who is this character and what are their wants and needs? This is different than looking at a script and saying, hey, there's a battle, and there's a battle here, and then there's a resolve here, and then there's a conflict here. So I have to write a battle, a resolve, and a conflict, right? No. When you break down the elements, you're actually focused on more important things, which is literally who are the characters, what are their emotional states, what locations does it take? Why do we care about location? We're not saying, is it in Kentucky? The location is a complete environment. What is the feel? Is it Kentucky 1980? Right? Is it Kentucky present day? And of course, obviously in 10 years, it won't be present day. If you've ever seen Back to the Future, that was literally in the future for those who originally saw that movie, and now it's definitely in the past, which is so odd. All right. So, by the way, if anyone has any questions, Excellent lesson, Tom. Oh, thank you, thank you. For anyone who's talking on the Facebook group, I can't see who the names are, but I can definitely see the comments. I appreciate the comments always. And of course, for anyone who's watching on the Instagram Live, if you jump onto the YouTube and subscribe, it'd be great. If you have questions, just leave them in the comments. I will answer them. If I don't get to them, I will answer them in a future video and or after the video is over. So let's move on to some examples, okay? Before I get going, for those watching on YouTube, if you want to take a picture, write any of this down, just so here it is. Boom, I'll give you a second. I will drink some water. Well, you take some notes. All right, and then I'm going to show you examples. I'm literally going to do this on the board for you. Okay. All right, I think that's good enough time, especially because you can go back and pause it and take a look. See. All right. So basically, don't trip on that. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm. We're going to create some elements, and we're going to write them down. And then we're going to connect everything together. Okay. Okay. And this is the thing. I'm going to brainstorm, but if anyone wants to throw in their 2 cents or give me a penny for their thought, please do. Let's brainstorm together. I don't mind. I'll have to look and stuff like that. So the first thing is like, let's go with a character. Let's find a character, right? So let's say, and you can name the character too. You could just say, you could say like what? Mel. Mel. Just because it's a good starting point, right? Mel. Now, I could say, I go, what is Mel? What does Mel mean to me? Well, it's short for Melissa. Why? Oh, so why is she not going by the name Melissa instantly? Now I'm in a train of thought. All right, she could just call herself Melissa, right? But she says Mel. Why is she telling people to call her Mel? Is she street? Is she easygoing? Right? So now we got. So let's do it, right? So we have some ideas. We go. She's street, right? Easygoing. You're going, okay. All right. So where did she grow up? Right. Now, some of the areas you could literally pick where you grew up. I could be like, oh, Brooklyn or New York or Long Island, right? Or Florida. Okay. Or you could just figure out like where else is there? She grew up. How about we vanished Earth and we go somewhere else? We make someplace else up, right? So let's see. Valcar. There you go. Valcar. Forget it, right? It's a whole new place. What is Valcar? Look, and you know what? We might even take that out and go back. Now she's from Kentucky. Let's go back to Earth. But now we're thinking Valcar. Why Valcar? What is Valcar? Valcar. It sounds rough. Ooh, it is rough. Okay. So there we go. Rough. Right? You let the ideas kind of flow out of you. You allow the sounds and the names to kind of dictate movement. In fact, when you're breaking down a script, you look at the name. You know, like if it says like Midnight Run, all right, that's a great movie with Robert De Niro but anyway, Midnight Run. So like if we were to look at Midnight Run, okay, like let's say we looked at Midnight Run, okay. When you're breaking down a script, you would look at Midnight Run and you'd say, what does that mean to you? Right? Just as an actor or someone who's just trying to understand the story. And you'll find that the story you come up with, if you've never seen Midnight Run, you'll probably come up with this. So Midnight Run might mean that they have a deadline. They or, you know, whoever has deadline. Okay, and that's one of the secrets to brainstorming. A really great tool is just allow the words to dictate where you go with your brain, just as a starting point. And remember, no matter what you come up with, you're allowed to change it. You are not, by law, destined to keep whatever's there. But anyway, so let's keep going. So Valcar, right? Valcar, right? It's a rough, what is it? How about, is Valcar the planet? Maybe, let's say, is it the planet? Planet. Okay, maybe it's not the planet. Maybe it's a region, right? Region. Okay. We don't know yet. We don't know. But both ideas came out of me, so that means I'm allowed to write them. Because that's where I went. Valcar, it's rough. It's a planet? Is it a region? What is it? Okay. If it is a planet, is there space travel? Space travel? Okay. Does there have to be space travel just because Valcar is a planet? No. Just because Star Wars and Star Trek exist and they have different planets, we're Earth. We have yet to venture out into space in a way that allows us extended space travel. So Valcar could be a planet that does not have space travel yet. And I could say that. No space travel. Okay? So, but do I want it to be Earth-like? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I want it to be a little different, right? And that's how we get Avatar. But Avatar, they have space travel and stuff like that. But you could dumb it down to where there is no space travel. It's just the people that live on that island, the planet, and they have a very tribe-based life and very organic and natural, and they don't bother with no spaceships. Okay, so no space travel. All right. So Mel, she's street, easygoing. She lives on Valcar or in Valcar, because it could be on or in, because if it's on the planet or in a region, we don't know yet, but we're throwing it out there. And then you have, let's say, no space travel. So why is there no space travel? So is it because no technology? Or maybe it's a limited tech? Okay. So these are things that we get to explore. And again, every little aspect allows us to draw into it, okay? But let's move on a little bit from Mel. Let's get away from Mel. Let's think of conflict. What kind of conflict can there be? All right? If anyone wants an idea, has an idea, throw it out. Maybe I'll write it on the board and I'll take that idea and I'll run with it. Just comments, and I love ideas. I love ideas. Anything? All right, I'll keep going. I will keep going. Okay. So let's think of conflict, right? And I might even write that down. Conflict. Okay. Are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing good on time. We're doing good. All right, conflict. So here I go, I say conflict, and I go, Mel is a street, she's easygoing, she's from the street. Oh, she's from the street, she's easygoing. So is she easygoing and a good person? Right? Or is she bad? Or is she indifferent? Look at that. I just threw it. Now I got my brain just rolling. Like, all right, I got all these ideas, right? Okay, so maybe her conflict is that survive on the street. Okay. Or, or whatever it is. Maybe they don't call it streets. Maybe they call it balloons. I don't know. All right. So maybe her conflict is survival. Oh, here you go. Here you go. Let's not make it a desolate planet. Like, let's not make it like it's maybe her survival is because the poor or the middle class are actually hunted, so they could just maintain the strongest survive, right? So poor middle class, okay, is hunted to ensure the strong will survive. Okay, so now we got a lot going on, right? We just created, and we're creating a world, by the way. This is the thing about story writing. A lot of times, creative types, writers, they'll say, hey, I have an idea for this story, and it takes place in a new world. It takes place in the region of Valcar. And then they sit there and they go, what is the politics of Valcar? What is, who's the leader? How long has Valcar been around, right? And they'll sit there and basically they create procrastination because they're focused on building all this lore. But the secret to writing and the secret to starting is allowing the narrative to create, okay? To create the lore, to create the mythology, all right? And as you start developing it, though, you can leak into it as long as it's narratively driven. So we just found out that Valcar And you know what? I think I'm going to go with it's a region and not a planet. I like that. Maybe this is just a region, but oh, there's a more accepting region, unknown to Mel to the north. Okay. All right. So there we go, right? We're just brainstorming, we're getting this stuff. So we figured out Valcar is a region, and what is the politics of that region is that it is all about the strong shall survive, the poor and middle class. But by saying poor and middle class, what are we doing? Mentally, we're creating the opportunity to brainstorm something very specific. We're not saying it's a warrior mentality. We're not saying that they live, they have no cities or kingdoms. We're not saying because it's poor and middle class. We're saying that there is a status society, and there is money. There is some form of currency. And by the way, it doesn't even have to be real currency. Currency can be personal worth in achievement. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, but what this is saying is the personal worth in achievement is that, like, you know, what do you own? What, you know, and that's going back to that idea is like, hey, you know, I have the most sheep or the most cow or the most whatever. But it could also be how many people have you defeated? How many people? How much land do you own? Right. So it's just the worth of your achievement gives you value, and the less you have, the more you're hunted middle class, because it's basically just a group of people that are just trying to take as much as possible, and whoever owns all of it wins, right? That's the mentality. Whoever takes all wins. Okay? And that's creating that region's politics. Okay? And it's also creating the reason why she needs to survive on the street. But we also created the things, there's a region in the north that if she could get there, they'll be more accepting of her. So now technically Mel has just become the lead of the story, right? So she's the lead. By the way, that can change. This could turn out to be one little thing that actually helps motivate maybe another character that turns out to be leads. We haven't even gotten to a second character. We're just letting this brainstorm, because we're not trying to finalize a story. We're not trying to write a story. We're just trying to figure out what the story could be. Okay? And this is, by the way, this is right off the top. I didn't pre-think this. I wasn't like, hey, Valcar, right? And by the way, I was like, Valcar. There we go, right? It doesn't matter. I could have called him, doesn't matter, right? I think that, should we call it that? All right. Anyway, so now we know what Mel's purpose is. Her purpose beyond surviving is to discover that there is a safe place in the north. Now this is interesting, because what did we just do? We made it so it's not, they have to beat the big bad. We made it so it's not the end of the world. We made it so there's, we did something very good. We made it so there is no blue laser shooting from the planet's surface into the top, and it's world ending. Which is Avengers, which is Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is Superman, Man of Steel, which is, you know, every movie out there. I'm gonna erase this. I don't want this on my board. I don't need this on my board. Anyway, it's our board. All right, so got a minute. But anyway, so what I would like you to do is take this as a lesson, okay? Think about it. Let me know in the comments some of your thoughts. Why don't you expand on this? Expand on it in the comments below. I will take that information, and my next video on this particular subject, I will show you what to do next in creating outlines. Okay, I'll take some of this, and obviously you need a lot more brainstorming before you can get to the outline. but I'll show you generally how I create an outline and how it works. And there you go. So, but before we conclude and stuff like that, I would like to know what I did is I made a story that was just about her or he, it doesn't matter, Mel, because again, it's our own world. So Mel can be not short for Melissa. It could be short from, Makaris. We don't know, and they just call him Mel. And Makaris could be an it. It doesn't have to have a sexuality, right? You can make it whatever you want. Okay, but let's just for argument's sake, Mel is Mel, and Mel is trying to discover that there is a safer place in the north, and not necessarily defeat the lead tyrant who's taking over most of the world. In fact, their greatest enemy could just be somebody that's trying to is like on the lower levels, right? I can write that. Antagonist is low level make a name for self. Not that they're trying to kill or destroy Mel. It's just the area where she's hiding, or it's hiding. Mel's hiding and trying to just survive. Just happens to be the same area that the antagonist. And KR, short for Karen. Karen is trying to take back the land. Karen. All right. So the antagonist just is a low-level person in the society who's trying to make a name for themselves. That's it. And it's not like, and that makes it so they're not necessarily a direct conflict. And look, you're creating a story that is character-driven and not necessarily world-ending. Or Mel is not going to, with the Archer girl, where she's like, I will defeat the political process of right. No, Mel just wants to have a nice day off, right? So Mel just needs to get to this northern region. This is the insane part. What if this northern region is just fairy tales that have been told to everyone to create a sense of hope? And Mel does get to the north, okay? Mel gets to the north, okay? Okay? And it's worse. Okay? Worse. Worcestershire sauce? I don't know. Worcestershire sauce? It's worse than where she was from, which could bring us either into another movie or a sequel, right? If you're writing a novel, it could definitely be leading to a sequel where she goes, well, maybe I do have to fight back and destroy a tyrant. Or maybe she decides to try to build worth by accomplishing achievements, realizing, oh, wow, every region is the same way. This is terrible. And maybe in the second book, she finds out by trying to build people or conquer or whatever, she realizes, wait, I can conquer a small region, a small area, and I can bring peace to that area. So now it's not just trying to take over like a whole massive region. It's just like, why don't I just try to find my own little area, right? So find my own area. Now this is where it gets interesting, and then I'm going to just kind of stop, okay? The thing that's interesting about this is I either created a second story or a sequel, or this where she discovers that it's actually, though it's as bad in the northern region as where she was from, if not worse, okay? Maybe that's the midpoint. Maybe I just created the midpoint, and then this is the descending, right? So the ascending conflict to the midpoint is that Mel is just trying to get out of this region. The descending is that Mel decided to conquer a very small area and be like, I'm going to bring peace to that. And does she do it or does she not do it? Obviously, I would brainstorm that until I figure it out and get there. But ultimately, that's how you brainstorm. That's how you create a story. Again, please like, comment, and share the video so we can spread the knowledge, because that's what it's all about: working together, growing together, and rising together. I'm Thomas J. Beleza. Subscribe. I'm always here. I teach craft, and I also show people how to be successful in their career. I guess I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same bat channel, same bat time, 4:30. Other than that, thanks for everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. Again, if you have questions on this and you watch the video, leave comments in below, and I will happily answer the questions pertaining to this. That's what I'm here for. We're here to help one another, right? All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye. And